even in like from a physics perspective of like the universe, it's like there has to be chaos to create order, and chaos is like the birthing
Yes.
place of order. So, but it's always our perception of what
Mm,
chaos is. It's like, are we perceiving this chaos to be bad, or are we perceiving this to be the precursor to a creation of like a new experience or a new order? And also with being a troublemaker, there's so much mindfulness to it. It's so much awareness. It's like when you become a troublemaker, you have to be mindful of where you're being fearful or where you're being small or where you're sitting on the sidelines or where you're judging others that are living and being troublemakers themselves. And I think for me, and I'm curious of what you think, it's almost like the mindfulness and the awareness and sort of self-awareness enough of your experience and how you're living in it is the first step to becoming a troublemaker. What would you say?
absolutely. And I love that idea that, order is birth and chaos. Yes. The thing is, what people consider chaos is like disagreement, right? That's where chaos has been bastardized. Disagreeing in a room and having a thoughtful discussion back and forth is not chaos. People are very quick to name something as chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, really, chaos is just something different happening. And it can be beautiful. But it's just because we're so uncomfortable with anything that feels like a lack of harmony. When the harmony that we're even thinking about is like not even real harmony. Lack of disagreement does not mean harmony. There's probably a lot of apathy there.
Yes.
There's probably a lot of silence in there and a lot of unspoken truths. That's not harmony. Harmony is when all the truths exist, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's no hate in the midst of it.
Yes.
I think that's true harmony. Lack of disagreement is not harmony. That's somebody being quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's worth it because we spend so much time chasing that false harmony
Mm-hmm.
and self-betraying in the process. So really, what's the good? What is the good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been actually obsessed with that thought lately of like true peace, the feeling of true peace and the feeling of like superficial peace. And it's that same concept where so many people live in homes or are in relationships or experiences where there's peace on the surface, but there's so much unsaid and they're not really speaking their truth. They're sweeping it under the rug. They're avoiding the conversation. They're avoiding that chaos so much that there is on the surface feeling of peace because nothing's being said. And we assume that not speaking and being quiet is peaceful, but there's so much going on underneath the surface that there's like this chaos underneath. And if people are able to bring that to the surface and actually talk about it and be troublemakers, like experience chaos for a few moments, experience being unsure of what's going to be said by each person or how it's going to end up, people will eventually be able to experience and feel that true sense of peace and that true sense of like calm because what was before under the surface has now been like experienced and worked through or felt.
It's an excavation,
Yes.
you know, to your
Yes.
point, like peace, for you to get to peace, you're gonna have to excavate all the things that's not okay. It's like a garden. You can't have a beautiful garden with all the weeds still there and be like, oh, just because the roses covered the weeds is beautiful. They just happen to cover the weeds. They still there. And I think that's what really happens. Because we've all been with the people who just like, we just have to be polite. And I'm just like, polite is a weapon.
Mm. Mm.
Polite is not okay because people will justify being quiet in a room that somebody's making a racist joke by being like, oh, we just have to be polite.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't welcome the rage, right? And because in that, the other thing about that is in the constant urge for harmony, there's no room for righteous rage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's how people end up being full adults who think their rage is never valid because they're supposed to be in the world as polite.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, my rage is just as valid as my joy.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a reason to be angry, I should be able to express it without somebody else feeling like I'm somehow disrupting the room. I think there's so many times we all know people who have been in rooms where you can tell where rage is not welcome. And I'm not saying, Tasmanian devil rage of throwing stuff at the wall, but being somebody who feels deeply passionate about what it is that has caused them anger, however way they felt harmed. And yeah, we don't know how to handle those situations. So then we tell people, you just gotta be polite. But why should somebody be polite in a moment when they feel harmed? Right? Why should somebody be polite as a response to somebody's hate? Why would we ask people to somehow swallow down their anger just to make the room harmonious, when if I'm already angry, the room is not harmonious? And I think all of it is just tied to the fact that like we're afraid of real feelings. We're afraid of like chaos, whatever we've assigned to be chaos. And I think we've given anything that assignment. We've given anything the label of chaos if it somehow rocks the boat. And I'm just like, sometimes rocking the boat is actually what you need in the room to get what you need to get. You gotta rock the boat.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Microdose by Almost 30.
We hope you enjoyed waking up.
As always, we encourage you to take what resonates and leave the rest. If you enjoyed this trip, tune into the full episode on the Almost 30 podcast. All episode information can be found in the show notes.
Make sure to subscribe, and if this becomes a part of your morning routine, be sure to share it with a friend. We have new inspiring doses Monday through Friday. Follow us on Instagram at Morning Microdose, and follow Almost 30 at Almost 30 Podcast.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the vortex.